Hi, this is Randy Wimmer with Government Contracting Academy, and this has got to be one of my favorite topics. It's essentially how to avoid CEO landmines. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I have a lot of history with these CEO landmines because I stepped on every single one at least once, most of them twice, and yes, some of them even 3 times. So let's get started with the top 10 mistakes to avoid in federal government contracting. And I'm going to stay out of the details. I'm going to go, this is big picture, this is high level, this is CEO level. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, well, don't use this word in a proposal. I'm going to go with the bigger picture things. Tip number 1, dream with consequences. A lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and startup founders, they just dream. And if they accomplish those dreams, it's great and wonderful. But what if they don't accomplish those dreams? Oh well, no consequences. I tried. I went to my local 7-Eleven store and bought a lottery ticket. I didn't win. Oh well, I guess I'll go on and be poor for the rest of my life. No. You have got to dream as if your business success has already happened, and you've got to look at how your life could be. It could be that perfect life for you and your family. Now, fail. Pretend that that's taken away from you, because that's exactly what happens when you fail to accomplish those dreams. What could be is taken away from you. You got to have that mindset. You've got to assume that the could be is already there. I could have the perfect life. We could be living in a nicer neighborhood. We could be sending our kids to nicer schools. We could travel as much as we wanted. We could have a beach house. We could do this. We could do that. So assume that you already have it. Now, your consequences of failing to meet your dream is taking that stuff away. Now, that has a little bit of bite to it. So, failing to achieve your dreams really does impact the people that you love. And most people never look at it that way. They just look at it and say, hey, I have a dream. It's no big deal if I don't accomplish it. It only impacts me. No. It impacts all the people that you care about. So I call that dreaming with consequences. And that is a certain, it will guarantee that you will put the appropriate amount of effort into pursuing your dreams. Tip number 2, you got a choice. You can either look successful or be successful. When I launched my very first company, I can't tell you how long I spent polishing my business cards. The perfect logo, what was going to be my title, founder, CEO, president, chairman of the board, grand poobah. I just can't tell you how long I did. So what I was doing is I was investing all this time and effort on window dressings for a house that didn't even exist. It can wait. This thing, it is a drug. It's addictive. You start getting hooked on it. Your logo, your website, your slogans, all of that kind of stuff are distractions. But you want to look the part. You want to feel proud. And I tell you, you really do have a choice. Go to LinkedIn. You'll see people, and I'm telling you, they have a dissertation for their job titles. They are everything. When in fact, basically they're unemployed. Every unemployed white-collar professional that I know has always been a consultant and the owner of their last name group, which basically means they're unemployed. So you really do have a choice. Your time and effort can either go to looking the part to impress people or actually being the part. And I encourage people, all the accolades will come. And even if they don't, who cares? By then, you've already figured it out. The wealthiest people in the world are the one who flash their wealth the absolute least. It's success. Success is a mindset. It's not what other people believe. It's not how many medallions and medals you can put on your uniform. In fact, that's why you're an entrepreneur. You don't want to be the person getting the pat on the head. You want to be the person patting the people on the head. You want to be the one giving the medals. You want to be the one giving the raises, giving the titles to. They're not for you. You've already made it. You just got to build your pyramid underneath you. Tip number 3, embrace the suck. Being an entrepreneur is tough. It sucks. What you've got to do is you got to embrace that. You got to take pride in the fact that it is so hard. I know way back in high school, our wrestling team, we took pride in the fact that we had a sucky existence. We were starving ourselves. We were working out, 10 times harder than everybody else, every other sporting team. And we used to look at those basketball players that all the girls liked because they were the really popular ones. And, we took pride in the fact that we didn't get the accolades, that we were the blue collar people getting it done, making the sacrifices and working harder than everybody else. We took pride in that. So we embraced the suck. We still didn't do too well, wrestling. We were perennial bottom feeders in our division. But anyway, I shouldn't have told you that. But seriously, you've got to embrace the suck. It's gonna suck. Embrace it. Say, hey, this is what being an entrepreneur is. This is what a startup is, and accept it. If you're trying to do this on the cheap, you're trying to do this easy, it's never going to happen. Tip number 4, a startup is like a marathon. To finish it, you got to keep moving. I tell people that launching a company is like running a marathon. It's 26.2 miles, and you're just waiting for Mr. or Mrs. Lucky to jump out of the crowd at some point along the way and just give you a hug. Now, you don't know when Mr. or Mrs. Lucky is going to jump out. It could be at mile number 1, which never happens, mile number 8, 14, 18, 20, 23, 25, or at the finish line at 26.2. Mr. or Mrs. Lucky is somewhere on that race route. You just got to be in the race long enough for luck to find you. Again, it is not a part-time job. Now, having said that, doesn't mean it all has to happen now. You just got to keep moving. You got to be contributing to it little by little. It can't be, it just can't be something that you forget about and every once in a while you take out of the cupboard and you dust it off and say, hey, I'm going to work a little bit more on it. Now, you got to be making progress. No matter how small, you got to be making progress on it, ongoing. I love this chart. This right here shows the power of compounding effort. If you just add 1% more to your entrepreneurial success every single day, just 1% more than you did the last one. If you just make it 1% better, by the end of that first year, you're way up here. You're 37.78, places further along than you were when you started out that year. Now, if you don't do that, you're still where you are. You're at, increment number 1. So I love this chart because it shows you that you can get there, but you got to make ongoing, continuous progress. You have to be careful that you don't fall in the trap that I did. It's all on you, but don't do it alone. I hitched my wagon to an executive in the federal government contracting industry thinking that this person was going to take me to the promised land. I was going to hook my wagon and they were going to give me subcontracts and they were going to do this, they were going to do that, and no, I was waiting for somebody else to make me successful. I'll give you an example too of what I'm talking about once you kind of get over the hump. I'm asked this question so many times. Randy, do you know any really good proposal writers that I can hire, as a contract gig? And And I always turn the question around. I say, here, let me reword you the same exact question that you just asked me. Hey, Randy, do you know anybody that I can pay a few $1,000s to write a proposal that's going to make me millions of dollars? Now think about that question. That's the exact same question that they're asking. I just put a couple more adjectives and variables in with it. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody. If you're an executive in a company, and if you meet a certain revenue threshold, you get a big ass bonus. Are you going to give part of that revenue away via a subcontract to some person, that you don't know, that you're not related to? We'll just say it that way. No, you're going to take that bonus, and you're going to, you're going to get that new car. Or you're going to be able to send your kid to that private school, or you're going to do something with it. You're going to take care of you and your family before you start giving away stuff. And that actually happened to me once in the most incredibly blatant way possible. I had already kind of gotten over the hump. I was already growing rapidly. And I had a small business owner come up to me and say, hey, Randy, I'd love to work with you. Congratulations on all your success. I want to work with you. I said, hey, great. We were colleagues. We weren't friends, but we were colleagues. And we were both small, aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners. And I just caught on. And so he says, hey, Randy, can you give me a subcontract? I said, well, why don't we do this instead? Why don't you find something that you want to bid on, and I will support your bid as your partner. You'll be the prime, and I'll be your sub. I will support you to help you win it. And he says, oh, well, Randy, I'm kind of hurting right now. Why don't you just give me a couple of billets? And I said, no, I said, this is better for you. This way you can get a prime contract, and he kept on pushing me. And I said, buddy, why don't I just pull out my checkbook right now and write you a check for $800,000? Right now. And he says, well, what do you mean, Randy? I said, those positions that you're asking me to just give you over a period of 5 years, for the life of this contract, is going to be worth about $800,000. You're just asking me to give you No, Randy, I'm sorry, you misunderstood me. We're going to do it for zero profit. And I said, okay. So, but you still got to build in every single thing in but the profit. You still got to pay the people, their overhead. You still got to pay them their benefits, taxes, and most importantly, G&A, your general and administrative fees to keep your company running. So, in order for you to keep your company running, that's your biggest quote unquote corporate overhead item is your G&A. That's what's paying for your building, paying for your people's overhead salaries, like your recruiters, your salary, all that kind of stuff. I said it doesn't matter. I said that G&A is going to go to you instead of me. And I said, so how am I going to fund my new recruiters, salary now? You just took all the G in a way that I would have had, from it. And now I'm giving it to you. I said, it doesn't matter. As the owner of a company, it's discretionary income. I get to choose how I use it. I get to either invest it back into my company, or I get to pull it out and put it in my investment portfolio. I said, you're asking me to write you a very, very, very large 6-figure check. That's a lot to ask of anybody. So I think he finally figured it out that what he was asking was a pretty significant thing. Now, having said that, you can't do it alone. You need a support group. And I was willing to be this guy's support group, but he wanted a gift instead of support. Running that marathon, the way you're really going to finish it is you're not going to bank on somebody to carry you across the finish line. Maybe for the last few yards they'll pick it up, they'll carry you for the last 100 yards or something like that, but they're not going to carry you 26.2 miles. So how do you finish the marathon? You have a support group. You have a running club. You've got running buddies. You got people who are going to wake your lazy butt up at 6 in the morning, to go on that run, to go on that jog, 3 times a week or 4 times a week or whatever it is. those are the people who are going to get it done with you. It's the people who say, hey, let's go out and I'll get new running shoes together. So you go out there and get all new running shoes together. Yeah, those are the ones who are going to commit to helping each other. And you need that support group. You need a community. So one of the most important things that you can do is find your people. I know that's a modern day cliche, but it's true. You got to find your people and create synergy. And there's different ways that you can do it, but if you surround yourself with the people that you ultimately respect and want to be like, you're going to be successful. Tip number 6, you have 0 time for inefficiency. You have got to be organized. And that was really tough for me because I'm ADHD. I can fly 100 miles an hour. Oh, you mean I have to write something down? I have to do something? I actually have to have a folder system? No. You're never going to be successful unless you're organized. I read this one book, and I love the book. It was written by Chris Bailey. He, when he wrote this book, he had just graduated from college, and his big thing was productivity. He wholly admits that he's a lazy person. All through high school, he wanted to see the least amount of work that he could put in to making straight A's, because he wanted to be really efficient. And he got a book deal as soon as he graduated from college to do the productivity project. And what he does is he tries 1,000 different things, and he sees what works and what doesn't work. Like, for example, you hear about all of these geniuses in the past that they never really slept for 8 hours a night. They catnapped throughout the day and they worked through the night, and that kind of stuff. Or they say, like, hey, if you do X number of hours of yoga every day, your productivity skyrockets. So he did all of these hacks, and he came down to 3 different things. Productivity really comes down to your time investment, your energy investment, and those are completely different things, and then attention. So, you can go through the motions of, like, I catch myself reading a book sometimes, and I'm just mouthing the words, and next thing you know, I'm 5 pages down, and this is great. What did I just read? Hell, I don't know. I have no idea what I just read. Because I wasn't paying attention. Or I think that somehow or another, my 30-minute investment, from 3 a.m. to 3:30 is worth the same. At 3:30 a.m. is the same as what it would be 3:30 p.m. It's not. The energy level's different. The time is the same, but the energy's not there at 3:30 a.m. So it's those 3 things that you've got to kind of balance. At least, that's what Chris says in this book, and I'm a big believer of that. I also believe that you need to have a time and a place for your startup activities. When I was launching my startup, I had a day job, and I encourage you to keep a day job too. And the reason why is because you need to have that income coming in, and that takes the pressure off of you to do really stupid things while you're launching your company. You need to have ongoing revenue coming in so you can actually do a better job launching your company. So my time for my company was crazy early in the morning, and then after the kids went to bed. I used to wake up really early and drive to work because I'm in DC. Traffic is horrible unless you wake up really early, you beat the traffic, and you're able to get on the HOV lanes before they turn in the HOV lanes. So I was actually driving to work, the HOV lanes that could get you to work really, really, really fast. I think they turned, anybody could drive on them up until 6 a.m. So I was on those things at 5 something. And I was at work probably around 5:30 in the morning. So people didn't start getting in until about 7:30. So I had 2 hours, at my desk at work where I just worked on my company every single day. I got nobody screaming at me, nobody yelling at me, nobody expecting me to do work stuff. I was at work because I just needed a place to sit down and do my things. I also had of course, this changes over time. I had a thing where I would go to Starbucks, really early, in the morning, on the weekend or in the evenings, and I had my own had my own desk, had my own office at a Starbucks, but that was my place, to do a lot of work. But it was really, most of the time it was actually at the kitchen table. When I joke about I launched a company from a kitchen table or from my favorite seat at Starbucks, it's kind of true. That's where I did most of the work. You also need a location. The location that you use kind of puts you in the right mindset. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can do that, but you got to have the right mindset. The other thing is you have to be organized. Organized. I tell people that if you make the same decision, 10 times, well, you wasted 90% of your time. You've got to make a decision, document it, move on to the next thing. But a lot of people can never declare victory, success, document something, and move on. So what you really need to do is you need to have an organizational system. Like I said, either I had a book. My wife gave me a book, and it was a hardbound canvas covered journal. And I'll talk about this later on, but just to steal a little bit of my thunder, it had my two youngest sons, handprints on it. And, they were in diapers at the time, and they said that Dad, we know you can do it, and had the name of my first company on top of it. And that was, to me, that was a binding contract, and that's what really solidified the if I fail, people will suffer. Kind of said, that's when it really clicked on me. Like, wow, I got these tiny little handprints, and their lives could be completely different if I'm successful. So I that was my contract. And again, just to kind of put a bow on this, since I brought it up, I failed during my first attempt at analytics strategies, my first launch. I had marginal success when I relaunched it, but it went out of business after 3 years. And then I relaunched analytics strategies. And people always ask me and say, "Well, Randy, why'd you keep on launching the same company, name over and over and over?" Well, because they wrote analytics strategies on that binder, on that journal, and I was under contract to make it successful. My kids believed I could do it. I still don't know whether I love my wife for doing that or I hate her for putting that burden on me, but it worked. So, like I said, finally, and I've already mentioned this, you need an office, you need a kitchen table, you need some place to put yourself in the right mindset. This right here is the exact folder system that I had. And that's it. That's Analytics Strategies global corporate office. That accordion file system, and every single thing regarding my company was in there. I had my binder in there, or not my binder, but I had my journal in there. I had anything that I discovered about business development, relationships, resumes, everything was in there. Analytics Strategies corporate office existed in an accordion file system initially, and I gave that to one of my kids. I said, "Okay, you want to launch a company? Here's your first office." So that accordion file system actually had a lot of meaning to me. Tip number 7. Find real mentors. When I was trying to launch my first company, I went to the bookstore, Barnes & Noble. This is really before Amazon. And bookshelves full of best-selling business books. And if you wanted to know something about a celebrity CEO, it was there. If you wanted to know something about a self-help guru, it was there. But more recently, all these former Navy SEALs are writing books explaining how a snatch and grab exercise or mission and some foreign land is somehow or another relatable to profit and loss. Maybe leadership, maybe commitment, that kind of stuff, but not so much, business. So, but yet that's what everybody reads. There's nothing actionable in those. Nothing. You're going to feel good. They're going to tell you can do it, but the reality of it is nobody wants a to-do list. Everybody, like the people who are serious do, the people who are serious, they desperately want an actionable, tangible to-do list to be successful. But most people, whoa, that's like work. Step one, do something. They don't ever want to do. The vast majority of entrepreneurs they just want to dream about it. So if they're being told that all you got to do is find your why, or be in touch with your inner self, or the business cliches is you just put your customer first. Quality is paramount. Teamwork is key. There's no I in teamwork. All that kind of stuff. They just want to hear about things. They don't want to do anything. What you have to do is you got to find real mentors. You got to find somebody who's 7 years ahead of you, doing exactly what you want to be doing in 7 years. 7 years, 5 years even. Find that person, find those people, and buy them a cup of coffee. I'm telling you, that will take you a hell of a lot further than reading every damn self-help guru book and Barnes and Noble. That will help you more than any of those will. So now again, that requires a lot of people to get out of their comfort zone. They have got to research, the kind of CEO that they want to be, and then reach out to them. Again, that takes real work, but that person is going to be more likely to give you a to-do list so you can achieve your success than reading a guru about finding your inner why and your inner self stuff. Tip number 8. Do not take this journey by yourself. Again, I talked about support groups. I'm going to go one step further. The people that you care most about, your family, your closest friends, your loved ones, if you include them, you're constantly reminded about why you're doing this. 99% of the entrepreneurs that I know, they're not doing it so they can go to spa treatments every other day. They're doing what they're doing because they want their families to have a better life. They want to do a little bit more for their family than what they presently have for them. So that's what I recommend. Include your family. If you look behind me, I don't know if you can see it, but I still got this piece of paper from many years ago. This is my son drawing. If you probably can't see it, but Analytic Strategies corporate office. It was never quite that big, but he's drawing it. So that kind of keeps you focused. I'll also say this. Now, I love my in-laws to death. I really do. I think they're some of the best people in the world, and I think that my father-in-law is a living saint. However, they were concerned about their daughter. She was married to some guy who had this fixation on launching a company, and they were both government employees at the same time, very senior government employees, and I was getting a lot of job offer emails saying, "Oh, here's an open, here's an open position in the government. Here's an application. Here's a this. Here's a that." And so you got to be careful. Those people, you're either an entrepreneur or you're not, and it's clear that they're not entrepreneurs. They're successful, but they're successful going through a pipeline, through a system. An entrepreneur, there is no corporate ladder. The difference between having success in traditional corporate America is how big of a train are you pulling as the engineer? That's success in corporate America. Oh, I got 150 cars that I'm pulling. Well, yeah, but you're also on train tracks that have been laid by somebody else that are going to keep you on the right path going to your destination that somebody else chose for you, and at the end of the day, you get to blow the whistle. Entrepreneurial success is like driving around in a Hyundai with a bad clutch, being lost. You got 360-degree freedom, and it'll take you wherever you need to be if you can figure out where that is yourself. So you've got to ignore the people who don't understand, and you've really got to be inspired by the people who are motivating you and who can encourage you. Tip number 9, believe that you're good enough, because you really are. I have been struggling with this for most of my life. I grew up in a very poor area. It was an area where the only educated people that we saw were basically high school teachers or elementary school teachers. They were teachers. So if you didn't want to teach, then really what's the sense of going to college? That's really expensive. Nobody there had the money. We were all dirt poor. And I do mean dirt poor. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains in southwestern Virginia. So as I got, when I was young, I was just like every other kid, wanted to be an astronaut and then president and then a superhero. And, but then as I got older, I started looking around and I started seeing, then your eyes kind of open up a little bit and you're saying like, whoa, I'm not seeing anybody in my area having success. I got no path to follow. I guess we're not one of the beautiful peoples who have those opportunities. And then you start rethinking your goals and expectations. So it has taken me quite a bit of effort and time to really figure out that I was good enough. Because in your mind, you think you're competing against these people, the beautiful people who've got it going on, like superhumans. When I went to the Naval Academy, like I said, I showed up thinking I wasn't good enough to be there, and then I very quickly realized that they put on their pants just like I did. Whether they're the sons of an ambassador or senator or admiral or just all-star athlete, academic, whatever it is, they were no different than I was at the end of the day. So your competition is way less formidable than what you really think they are. Tip number 10. I have a saying that I used to tell people that you need to know what time it is in your company, because as the CEO of your company, if you're late evolving to what you should be next, then you're putting yourself at risk. You're not achieving your optimal growth. Now, if you try to get there before you're ready for it, now that's even worse. But you got to figure out what time it is in your company's life cycle. I'll tell you what I'm talking about in more practical terms. My job at CEO dramatically changed so much during a 2-year period that it was like I was doing something completely different. My job as the founder of a startup at day 0 versus day 2 years versus day 4 years, which is versus day 6 years, and so on, it completely changed. Completely changed. So what you have to do is you have to be honest with yourself. You've got to assess what you have, what you need to evolve to that next step, and you got to hire the difference. You can't stay tunnel visioned, and it's very easy to do this because it's usually that core group of people that you launch your company with and you get that initial growth with. You get this special relationship with them, and it's you and them against the world, and you can't do that. So as much as I liked having that close-knit club, I knew that I didn't know initially. I learned very painfully over a long period of time that I had to open up that club to new members in order to get the talent that we needed in order to be successful. Once I started doing that, we started growing, rather rapidly. So you have got to assess what you have, what you need, and who you need to help get you to where you want to be. Now, that entails being able to look into a mirror and assessing yourself, and that's really difficult. But in order to be successful, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You've got to find people who are stronger in areas than you are. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you have failed, and you will fail. You can't be that person. You can't be so insecure that says, hey, I gotta be smarter than everybody else, otherwise I feel like I'm gonna lose control of my company. No, the best CEOs are the least capable ones in the room. Now, they're bringing something to the table that's very special, very unique. It's their drive, it's their vision, it's whatever that is. But they're not the most knowledgeable, capable people in every single aspect of the company. If that's the case, then their company will never be successful. So that's tip number 10. You got to make sure that you can do an honest self-assessment, assess what you need, when you need it, and you got to get it.